Hello YouTube, GreatRJ1 here, and today I'll be doing a video on the star cards I use for characters in Battlefront 2. Now do keep in mind this will only be going over characters that I do have all the star cards for. So if I was to go over ones that I don't, then it would be pretty much just, you know. Anyway, starting off with Boba Fett. I just pretty much use the same exact ones in all modes using fuel efficiency, because I'm not really the best with handling these jetpacks, so yeah. Then I use Born to Fly as well as Acute Concussion. So that's mine. Then we're going to head on to Boss. This was originally a character that I didn't like using, but then once I began to level him up and use him more, I did like him. But this is probably the most definite card to use. Name your poison. The next star card is multi-traps. He throws out 2 additional proximity mines that have a larger detonite radius. This is for hero modes, by the way. And then Unrelenting Predator. For every enemy boss defeats with Predator Instincts, it is active for the recharge time of its other abilities are shortened, whatever it says. Then on Trooper modes, I run pretty much the same setup but using Trap Arming Speed. Now for Hero Showdown, there's not really too many cards to use, so usually I would stick with that. But if you want to change it up, you can use Spreading the Seas, which gives out the clouds, which gives his Dioxis grenade clouds wider, which makes it wider and thicker. All lingering Dioxis, which will spew out the smoke for I think more of the time, for like half the time more. Also, if you're wondering what the description of these were, it's Boba Fett's jetpack fuel burns slower than flying. Boba Fett's abilities are faster while in the air, but its health regeneration starts 1.5 seconds later, and concussion rocket will confuse enemies for a longer duration. Now on to Darth Vader, which I still do not have him at the same level as Grievous, but I do prefer using Grievous over Vader. If Vader doesn't really do the job when I'm using him, then I'll just swap to Grievous and he usually does it. So anyway, you see, the star cards I use are Furious Resilience, Darth, which gives him less damage while focused rage is active, bonus health, which will give him 150 health, and yes, I'm going off by the maximum variation. And then Punishing Grip, which makes him choke for a longer duration. These are really the only star cards worth using, but if you're in Trooper modes, then you can take one of the star cards off and replace it with Deflection Stamina, which will, because you'll mostly be facing off with blaster users in Trooper modes, this will be very great because having more blocking stamina for blasters is quite helpful. So you can replace any one of the star cards. I would sort of replace this with Punishing Grip, but Trooper modes use Deflection Stamina, Furious Resilience and bonus health. In hero modes, Furious Resilience, bonus health and Punishing Grip. Now I usually just change 1 star card per mode. For Palpatine, this being Lightning Reach, which gives him increased range on his lightning attacks. The Roll of 2, which makes 200 lightning deal bonus damage to enemies that are electrocuted, and Show No Mercy in Trooper modes. For each extra target hit by chain lightning, will reduce its cooldown by 0.5 seconds to a maximum. This effect resets when Palpatine is defeated. Then for heroes versus villains in full control, which will drain his lightning attacks, stamina less. And then for hero showdown, forked lightning, which gives it an increased area of effect. Now this will keep you vulnerable much longer, but you can also use glowing darkness, and this can be good for trying to get people that like to run, or you can just use in full control in hero showdown. Now you sort of already saw my Yoda setup, but I'll still go over it. Jedi Mentor for the less damage, Feel the Force for more bonus health, and Opposing the Dark Side when he deals, which will give him more damage to enemy villains, well heroes. That's for hero modes, and for the trooper modes I will pretty much the exact same setup, but using size matters not, which will give the bonus health is of presence is depleted. It heals some of the damage prevented. The cooldown percent is increased by 13 seconds, which the maxed out variation will give you 50%, but it does not really feel like it's working, but still it can be useful. For Finn I just use In Charge, and this has a very long one, so I won't talk it, so you can just pause it, but I will. So during Undercover Team, Finn will grant damage reduction for every 2% of each trooper defeated, or 100 damage to villains to a maximum. To Finn and all his friendlies affected, this bonus stays for the next use of the ability, but resets when Finn is defeated. Then I can do this, which is revealed enemies will stay revealed longer after Undercover Team is deactivated, and made to do one thing, which is Finn's Jedi has a larger lock-on radius. But I completely skipped the others. Now for Rey, I have not completed the star cards, but I will go over the ones I was using. I used Balance, which gives her an extra dodge ability, but her stamina drains faster, but still it's worth it. Street Fighter, as a self-trained fighter, Rey melee's attacks drain less stamina. I really like the drain less stamina cards, because they are quite helpful. Then Damaging Strike, which will make Rey deal more damage with that strike for each target that is hit. Now MAUL, I use Fool Me once to decrease the recharge rate of his abilities, which can be helpful for chokeholds, which is a very lengthy ability. Then Accelerated Throw, which makes it deal more damage, and Flow Motion to make him do another spin attack. So you get 3 spin attacks. Now this is the 4 hero modes. For trooper modes, I would take off Accelerated Throw and put Lightsaber Defense on, because that's really helpful for the reduction. Now for Luke, Epicenter, which will make Repulse do damage to targets standing within half its radius, but actually deals damage through blocks doing 40. So then Intensify for every enemy trooper, or 200 damage to villains. Increases Luke Skywalker's damage by 2 to a maximum. This effect resets when Luke Skywalker is defeated, and yes, I'm reading it. And then I also put on Rush Immunity for every rush Luke Skywalker makes, more resistant to damage for 3 seconds. Now if you're in a trooper mode, then take off one of the star cards. You can take, if I was to recommend one taking off, it would be a tough decision, so you can choose. If I had to, it would be the Intensify, and then I'd replace it with Deflection Mastery or Jedi Fighter, or you can take off 2 and put these 2 on, because they are quite useful in trooper modes. Now on to KYLOREN. I just pretty much use the same setup, but I will do some different, I will tell you some different ones. So Bloodlust to deal more damage with his frenzy attack, and if you combine this with Pull with this star card, you can deal like, I think it was like 190 damage, which is a ton. Probably more. Then with Harsh Pull, Pull will deal more damage to enemies, and BERSERKING Tantrum, which will make him drain less stamina with his strikes. In Trooper modes, you can take one of his star cards off and put Closing in, so he can scan for more enemies, which can be useful. Or you can use Total Control or Solid Freeze, but yeah, so, or you can also use Power Reach, but do not use Resilience, as this will be useless to you in Trooper modes, as there won't be enough heroes really, and plus, unless if you're in co-op or Supremacy, then you will only be getting this benefits with Palpatine. And plus it only works with half the heroes, being all saber heroes including Palpatine, and he doesn't even use a lightsaber. Now on to General Grievous, who is pretty much just the second Darth Vader in the game. I use pretty much just the same setup, but then I don't really use him a lot. But what you want to use is Beating Heart, which gives him increased health regeneration, which is always a must really. Flesh is weak, which for every 10% of health missing, he will gain damage reduction, but his health speed is half. His health regeneration speed is halved, whatever it is, I think it's halved. And then line up weaklings, so after one enemy has been hit, Grievous will deal more damage with Clawish, so that's for hero modes. Technically, because you'll be hitting a lot of enemies with Clawish, you should really use Cowardly Retreat, which will give him more damage reduction while Clawish is active. So if you combine this with Flesh is Weak, you can be pretty much invincible with Grievous in Trooper modes. But I would recommend taking this off and putting this one on in Trooper modes, but then I do not play Galactic Assault or Supremacy, I only really play co-op and Euro Showdown along with single player, so yeah. Next up is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I use Jedi Resilience, which gives him increased health regeneration, Perfect Defense, which blocking lightsaber and blaster attacks drain less stamina, and the charge up time of all out push is slightly longer. So yeah, I mean it's shorter, so you can push, so it's like an instant, but if you don't want one of those star cards, do think it over and you'll mind trick your enemies for a longer time. Now for Dooku, I only really run 4 star cards, the 4th one only using if the enemy team is quite good, so I use Finesse, which drains less stamina when he's blocking and attacking, then SITH Control to give him increased health regeneration, and last seconds to have a faster recharge rate. And yes, some of these star cards I do use from Battlefront 9 if I remember correctly, but in hero modes, last seconds won't really do you good, so put on Masterful DUELIST, which will make him deal even more damage while DUELIST is active, and also run this in Hero Showdown if the enemy team is quite hard to take down. But if you want, then you can also use Blind Spot in Trooper modes. It does not increase the area, but it does increase how it is to the left and right, and it can be useful if you're being surrounded by quite a lot of enemies, so yeah. Now on to Anakin. I use Tenacious for the increased maximum health, Passionate Strike's final hit deals more damage, and I always used to swap cards with him. I was like Massive Strikes, all of them, and then it was to this, which is Pressure. Then Steamroll for every enemy trooper or 200 damage to villains, decreases all of Anakin Skywalker's stamina costs by 2% to a maximum. This effect resets when Anakin is defeated, so this is one that's a must, so use the same setup in trooper modes as well. Now onto the final character, BB9E, who I did spend around a day or two getting everything for him, but still. There's only really around 5 star cards worth using on him, which is full reconstruction, which will have an increased maximum health regeneration. Radius of smoke screen is increased, and then I'll see for enemies affected by smoke screen will say reveals for a longer duration. That's what you should use in Hero Showdown, as there will be 1v1s, so faster will not be useful, and it still won't be useful unless they say 2v2, and unless you have it on the maxed out, don't use this in hero modes until you have it to at least max, or the third is just before max, or common, rare, epic or common. Pick between any of them before using it in any hero mode. Now I do want to mention his spin me round star card. Enemies hit by shock spin will be pushed 4 meters further, but its cooldown is increased. Now I get this will be really useful what was it? I get this would have been really useful on maps with ledges. But just do not use this card, as you're just going to be extending the length of a ability that already has a really long length, and this is just not worth using in any mode. Now faster do use in hero modes. You can use it in heroes versus villains, but make sure it's on max, otherwise you won't be benefiting a lot from it. Now linked systems, for every 4 successful enemies, the shock pod's damage will increase by 1 to a maximum. This resets when BB9E is defeated. Now yes, you can use this, but do keep in mind that my setup is different, and I actually use faster in trooper modes, so yeah. And that's pretty much all the ones I use for star cards. If you're wondering for my Han Solo setup, I will go over the other setups, but do keep in mind that I am planning to change them. I use broad shoulders, which gives him less damage while shoulder charge is active. Smuggler's Wits, which gives him an extra dodge ability, but all his cooldowns are increased. And All In, which with every enemy defeated with shoulder charge will reduce the time before the ability can be used again. So yeah, I do plan to swap this one out in hero modes for heavily modified blaster when I get it, but as of now I do not have access to it. For IDEN VERSIO, I use alternate methods, shock reach and shield sustain, which will give the droid shield to be active for a longer time. Has an increased area effect when it stuns enemies, and its alternate fire can be used more often. For Lando, I have barely used him, so I just have the base maximum health. For LEIA, she used to be a character I used to focus on, but not as much now. So I use High Spirit, Fearless, and Rebel Hearts, meaning that she can regenerate more base health. The blast radius of the thermal detonators are increased, and she receives less damage when you wield in the E11. Sorry for my words sounding messed up. And Phasma. So pretty much I just run the more the better, which makes it rotate at an increased speed. Blaster Inception, so every time she kills an enemy, Captain Phasma and friendly troopers around her gain a permanent 3 decreased damage. The blaster overheats per bolt to a maximum. This effect resets when Captain Phasma is defeated. Finish them off, so the last strike of staff strikes deals increased damage. For BB-8 I use self-repairs, head first and whirlwinds, which both damage on the area of effect of cable spin are increased. BB-8 deals more damage when hitting an enemy with rolling charge and has increased maximum health through regeneration. And Chewie, who like Lando I barely use, so I just have the increased maximum health. So I hope this video did help you out. If you want me to do like a tutorial on how to get Rey's resilient skin, then do let me know, because I am happy to do it, but there is videos to find. But if you want me to make one, then I will. However, it's probably just simpler to find a video with it having that than actually having me make the video, but still. And if you're wondering why I kept Kylo's appearance at default, I did have it at Supreme Leader, but changed it back to his masked, which is his default appearance. And we'll not be now technically there's more than 22 heroes because of the hero ships, and I never see them in hero rankings, so technically they should be in, but I get many people who do hero rankings probably don't use the hero, probably don't think about doing the heroes or don't use the hero ships. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time, and bye.